Hello everybody and welcome to the final video that I will be doing on accepting fate. This is the final few chapters of my creative writing, what I like to call a major project, where it's quite long and it took me quite a while to do. So these are chapters 7, 8 and 9. As usual, if you missed the other chapters of Accepting Fate, it will be linked in the description box down below for you guys. And on top of that, I will also link the creative writing playlist that I have here on my channel. So if you guys want to check out my other forms of creative writing that I've done, you're more than welcome to. And just something else really quick before I get into the last few chapters of Accepting Fate. This does include a lot of mental health. It deals with miscarriage and other things that some people may deem to be upset by or bothered by in any way. And if you think that you are going to be triggered by me talking about things like that, then please click off this video. I don't want to bother anyone. I don't want to upset anyone. I just wanted to share this story with you guys, so please don't listen to it if you think that it may upset you in any way. But other than that, I think I've said everything I need to, and let's just get started. And at the moment, we're going to start at chapter 7, which is entitled Aftermath and Resolution. After that day with Gemma in my home and the ordeal in the supermarket, I was forced into one-on-one counselling sessions and was put on medication. And despite things still being rough, I knew deep down that it was something that needed to be done. I hate the counselling sessions with a passion. Sharing my messed up and dark thoughts, and of course behavioural patterns, with a complete stranger was both a test and a chore for me. Every time I would step into that room, my heart would race and my palms would sweat. My face would go pale and I would shake uncontrollably. I had originally started off with group counselling. However, I forced my counsellor to change me over onto one-on-one sessions. Not only did it settle my crippling anxiety ever so slightly, it also made me slightly more open and willing to talk to my counsellor. At the moment, I feel just as hopeless and weak as I did whilst I was carrying around that plastic doll, cradling it and loving it like a real human. My mind was still twisted and lonely, and I still miss George greatly. I hate talking about my life with this counsellor, and I have opened up to her numerous times about how I don't feel this form of treatment is right for me, but she always says the same thing. "Oh darling, you've only been doing this for a couple of months. Give it another week or so and you may feel differently." Why no one listens to my wishes is beyond me. I know they turn their noses up at me, the way I look, the way I dress, the area in which I live. I didn't realise when I first signed up to this. I didn't know these people were supposed to be snobby and rich. I thought they would be able to help me. However, one thing, which is a positive point in all of this, has been Gemma, my faithful, amazing friend who has done nothing but her best for me and my health. Unfortunately though, I feel her best just isn't going to help me. I am scared, frightened, and have more scars on my arms than ever before. Things have not changed for me. I'm a broken human being. There is no hope for me, no love or no family. Even this so-called support is doing nothing at all. I mean, I of course knew that this wouldn't be a simple, quick and easy fix, but I thought by now I would have at least started to feel better. Every day that passes I feel more pain, and talking about it and loading me up with pills really isn't helping. Too much has happened and too much time has passed. Speaking of the tablets, I hate them also. Are they supposed to make me feel so numb, so lifeless and dead? They say that treatment isn't for everybody, and I agree. What good am I to the world if I cannot even crack a smile, even if that smile is fake? There is no longer any way to hide my true feelings. My character has been assassinated, butchered and thrown away. My heart breaks more and more each and every day. Chapter 8. Worry. I am very worried about Katie and her treatment. Not only is she not feeling any benefit, but as each day goes by I can see the light in her eyes fading. We are against the clock here and time is running out. I have been going to see her every single day since she broke down in front of me, and I've also been going to every counselling session with her. She's not cooperating with treatment, and it's clear that she doesn't see the point in being there. At first, she begged for help, but she is too shy and too much of an introvert for the counselling sessions to benefit her. I worry greatly I will find her unresponsive in her home, for she has discussed on several different occasions just how low she is feeling. I have told her several times she is not worthless, and that suffering from a miscarriage does not mean that you are any less of a woman, but she refuses to listen to my words. She is driving herself crazy. The process of pregnancy, giving birth to a child, and even getting pregnant is a complicated and risky process, especially for someone with her illness. She was already unfortunately at a massive disadvantage. Not just the loss of her precious baby, but also the separation of George. She feels his absence like another loss entirely. Katie cannot deal with any more unnecessary stress and worry. Chapter 9. The Height of Sadness. It was a cold winter morning, and my alarm gave me a startled way to start the day. I drag my feet out of bed and my mind immediately begins to think about Katie. What state will she be in today? I boiled the kettle and put some bread into the toaster. I was starving hungry, but felt an overwhelming uneasy feeling deep in my gut. Something didn't quite feel right this morning. I mean, I always worry for Katie, but something today just feels wrong, and I couldn't quite put my finger on what my body was trying to tell me. A warning sign, perhaps? After eating my breakfast, I get changed into my clothes for the day with an unusual amount of haste, and just before rushing out the house I remember to pick up Katie's present and card for Christmas. It is the season to be jolly, but I know that she won't be happy. I nervously walk to her home and my mind drifts into a daydream which seemed like a feature film. My mind was live with energy and backtracking all the events leading up to this one moment in time. I remembered Katie's palms sweating, her nerves controlling her, and her mind in her own world as she bought the pregnancy test, the shy smile on her face as yet another test would either make or break her. I remembered looking deep into her eyes as both me and her found out she had lost the baby, holding her shaking hand as she sobbed into my shoulder. The moments which have shaped her into this unrecognisable human being. I arrive at her house with an unbearable unknown feeling in the pit of my stomach. I knock on her green front door and gaze into her house number, which was nailed into the door, number 13. An unlucky number for a lot of people. 13 was the number which most people tried their best to avoid. We have days of the year dedicated to this number being unlucky. After a small while, Katie did not answer the door, and I began to worry even more, and the feeling in my gut became recognisable. It was dread, fear of the unknown. I knocked again, this time much harder, and when she didn't come to the door yet again, I was unsure of what to do. Maybe she went out? No, that is unlikely considering her nervous, unsocial nature. Maybe she's still asleep, hopefully resting peacefully in her bed, dreaming about wonderful things. I mean, that has happened before. I try a third and final time before I begin to worry immensely. Lucky I have a spare key which was given to me by Katie in times like this, and I pull the silver key out of my handbag and slowly turn it inside the keyhole. The door opens, granting entry into my good friend's house. I am greeted with a strong smell of weed, and immediately alarm bells begin to ring. In all my time knowing her, I never had been told of any kind of drug use. This was something new to me, something she had never spoken about. Part of me honestly felt betrayed, and the smell of weed almost made me walk straight back out of the house, but I cared for Katie too much. As I entered the living room, the television was turned on, but no one was watching. The house looked like an abandoned movie set. It was cold, it was dark, and even mouldy in some places. I walked over to the television set and turned it off, and at the same time, setting my Christmas present and card to Katie gently on the table in the middle of the room. The place was silent. The only thing audible was the tap in the kitchen dripping gently in the background. I shouted for Katie, hoping that I would wake her up or she would reply back to me, but no reply. I wandered through to Katie's kitchen and turned the dripping tap off, stopping it from dripping any further. I do admit it was a small annoyance to me. I searched her whole home until I came to Katie's bedroom. The door was shut and the smell of drugs was even more apparent right outside of her door. My hands were already sweating, but now they shook uncontrollably. My mind frantically skimmed through all possible outcomes. What exactly was going to be behind this door? I grabbed the handle, turned it and opened the door, and nothing could ever erase the image my mind was greeted with. There was my best friend laid on the floor, blood staining the beige carpet around her. I could not believe my eyes as I immediately rushed to her side, and I wondered that if I had arrived a little earlier, this whole situation could have been avoided. My hands shook like never before as I checked her wrist for a pulse and silently prayed that she would somehow still be alive. There was no heartbeat, no sign of life. Time seemed to slow as I rang for an ambulance and also contacted the police. Tears dropped onto the carpet as I cried for my loss, a loss which had broken me into several pieces. I had no clue what to do whilst waiting for the police and ambulance to arrive, so I sat by her and gently spoke to her. I'm not going to lie, I was hoping that somehow she would respond to me. I glared at the blood-stained carpet and smelled the strong smell of drugs. I let out a sigh and glanced over at her lifeless body, her head filled with alcohol and cocaine. This was a woman sick of life, a woman ashamed of her inability to conceive. I whispered to myself under my breath, "Why, Katie, why?" I daringly glanced over to her stomach where the blood was gushing out from and noticed the weapon used in this horrific event. It was a knife. I began crying hysterically at the sight, so many questions flooding through my brain, but I couldn't get any answers. I stood up from her body and looked around her bedroom, and a note on her bedside table caught my attention. I picked it up and read the note. It was Katie, explaining herself. The note read, "Gemma, I know you'll be the one to see this note. I am hopeless and cannot be helped. I've been struggling for so long. I am now completely unable to cope. What kind of woman am I if I cannot give my partner a child? I am a failure. I know this will be a shock to you and I apologise. You tried your best to help me, but I don't seem to be feeling any better. I'll never feel any better. There's been many things I've been hiding from you. Drug use, self-harm, alcoholism, and of course, there is more. But thank you for being the friend that I needed. Lots of love, Katie." Not too long after reading the note, the emergency services arrived, and they politely asked me a few questions, then tell me to leave the premises. From that day on, my entire life changed. I missed my friend immensely. I remember her funeral, so dark and soul-destroying. I remember crying constantly throughout that entire day. I remember getting stuck into the same dreaded hole of depression and anxiety, scared to leave the house in case of a horrible event, like the one I witnessed that dreadful day. If I take anything from this whole experience, it would be that a woman is a woman, no matter if she can conceive or not. And that is it, you guys. That is actually the end of my major piece of creative writing, I guess. This is the biggest piece of creative writing that I've shared with you guys to this date, so I really do hope that you enjoyed. If you liked this little creative writing story, then please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, click on that subscribe button, and I really, really hope to see you guys in my next video.